We're now going to have a fireside chat about how we nourish the next generation of eaters in a way that heals both people and the planet. It is my distinct pleasure, and I love this woman so much, and I always mess up her name, and she can physically harm me on stage. But Dr. Sweta Chakraborty is the CEO of We Don't Have Time North America. She is a heroine, everyone, so please check out We Don't Have Time. They are doing great work. And joining her for the panel, please welcome Oliver and Simon English, the filmmakers behind the new documentary, Feeding Tomorrow, which was released at the end of January. And while they're settling in and I get off the stage, you get to see a trailer of the film. Thank you, everyone.
Music, they say, is the universal language. I think food is. Food is the one global unifier. Everybody can sit down around a table and enjoy good food.
I'm most fearful that our children won't have the opportunity to experience that.
As a species, what are we doing with our time? How are we consuming this planet?
50% of the planet's habitat is gone because of our agriculture.
People don't have a connection to what food really is and where it really comes from.
To scale our current consumption to 10 billion people is simply manifestly impossible. We don't have the arable land for that. We don't have water resources. In other words, we will be forced to change direction.
So in the food movement, the critical thing is connecting the dots between all of these different issues: health, food access, the environment.
This system over here is going to produce food, fuels, medicines, and fibers in perpetuity forever, while increasing the fertility of the soil, increasing the biodiversity. And do you hear the toads creaking off in the background? I hope you do. And the toads are eating my pests.
As a hospital system, we should be leaders in what healthy food looks like. We believe food is medicine in that it can prevent disease, or if you do have a disease, it can reverse it.
We believe that if we connect the learning around food and nutrition to other learning, that it will stick more, and that we will have folks when they leave here who are more likely to make stronger choices around the food that they consume.
We need to begin to investigate every aspect of our lives. And let's start with what's on the plate tonight for dinner.
Thank you for making it to the end of Food Tank's evening, an all day of programming on all things food. It's amazing to see you all bring the energy. We're about to close out with an amazing panel. I am so thrilled to have with me Brothers English. I don't think I've described you as Brothers English. I say it in my head a lot, and I say it to friends.
Our mom calls us that.
And okay, oh great, awesome. Just like your mom, I'm just like your mom. So
a much cooler version.
We have Oliver, who's a filmmaker, chef, and food advocate. And we have Simon, who is a film director, editor, and cinematographer. And together, these two have done some incredible filmmaking around Feeding Tomorrow. That's the name of their documentary. The reason I was so excited about moderating this panel in particular is because I had the privilege of actually talking to these two just before the launch of this film, before Sundance Film Festival, at Sundance Film Festival. And the documentary launched shortly thereafter. So what I would like to do to bridge the conversation from then to now is to actually start at the end of it a little bit. Where are we now? And as you mull that over, how it's been doing since its launch, I'm just gonna ask everyone who's outside to consider coming in and taking these seats, because this is a discussion and panel not to be missed. And the food will still be there, I promise you. Please come in and fill out the room. This is an amazing duo that will tell us all about how their film has been doing since Sundance. Please.
Thank you, Sweta. Good to see you. We were told that you weren't going to show up, so the last-minute arrival is very exciting, so thank you very much. Great to see you. Since launching, we are very pleased to say that we are on Apple TV, Amazon Prime, and Google Play. Within the first couple weeks, we hit number 7 on Apple TV documentaries, which is amazing. Thank you. We are also proud to say that we're going to be going into every single New York City public school and also a bunch of airlines in the coming weeks and months. And it's exciting because it shows us and it tells us that people are really, dare I say, hungry for this message. And people are willing and able and excited to talk about the future of food in a really positive way. And the way that it's been received really recommends and suggests that to us. So we're just getting started, but we're really excited.
Okay, love that. Simon, how's it been for you? This is a big deal. This is a film that you released literally at Sundance, just a couple days after that, to Amazon Prime for the world to see. How's it been since releasing this?
Crazy. I've had friends reach out, random people I've never met reach out. I'm like, how'd you get my number? It's wild. I mean, this was my baby. I was working on this in my room, next to my bed in a coffee shop in the corner, and to see it, on Apple TV at number 7, just 2 days into its release was just like absolutely, it blew my mind, and I still don't really think it's real. And it's amazing that it's out.
Okay, that's amazing. Well, as somebody who is horizontal to your mother, apparently, I don't know how I feel about random people reaching out.
Our mom's very cool, by the way, so it's a good compliment.
Oliver, tell us a little bit, for those who haven't seen this yet or are hearing about it for the first time, which probably isn't this audience, but give us a little backstory. Let us know what inspired you to pursue this journey for Feeding Tomorrow.
Absolutely. And so Simon and I grew up in the restaurant business. Our parents are chefs, they met at cooking school, and we grew up working in restaurants our whole lives. As the oldest child in the Italian restaurant family, it was kind of on my shoulders to go into the family business, and eventually I grew into a role designing, developing, and opening restaurants all around the world, in Asia, the Middle East, the Caribbean. And 7 years ago, I was living and working in Abu Dhabi to open a new restaurant. And about halfway through the meal, I ordered a big steak frites, big side salad, all this food. I looked down at all this food I was eating, and I thought to myself, wait a minute, where'd all this food come from? How'd it get here? And I asked our chef to come out, and we ended up having a long conversation about where each one of the ingredients came from and how they got there. Ended up being 10 plus ingredients from 6 countries. We talked about the boats, planes, and trains it took to get there, the environmental impact that had on the planet. And after this whole conversation, I realized that I never asked the question, where does food come from? Despite having this whole background in food in the restaurant business. And I realized in that moment that I was so incredibly disconnected. And I got back to New York and I started asking some friends, like, hey guys, where do you think the blueberries are from? And the answer was, oh, the grocery store. And I was like, there is a bigger disconnect here. A few months later, I was down in the Bahamas opening another restaurant, and I sought out a local farmer to get produce for the restaurant. And I ended up meeting this amazing farmer named Sakane, who had a love and passion and joy for food and farming. He shared with me that the weather patterns he grew up with are so different from the ones today that he doesn't know what to plant, that he was one of the first people in his family to go plant-based and one of the only ones to not develop a chronic disease. And we looked in the distance, we saw trash fires. And I said, Sakane, what's that? He said, there used to be 12,000 farms in the Bahamas, now there are 1,200. Everything is industrialized in the US, shipped in on styrofoam, wrapped in plastic. They send it to the landfill and they burn it. And despite all these challenges he was facing, he had a joy and a passion for food and a deep understanding of how deeply interconnected our food system is with all aspects of our lives. And I was so inspired by meeting him, and I called Simon, who was at the New York Film Academy, and he goes, let's film an interview with him. I was like, I have no idea how to do that. I don't even know where to start. What do you mean? And Simon, in his wisdom, said, we'll figure it out. I know how to do it. And we started filming interviews with farmers. And we were so blown away, and we thought, more people need to meet farmers. Why aren't farmers the celebrities in our society? And what role does our food system play in solving the interconnected challenges we face, from health to our environment to society at large? And that was the beginning of Feeding Tomorrow. And that was 7 years ago, and we haven't looked back since.
Okay, well, last time I asked, that's incredible, thank you for sharing that firstly. Last time I asked Simon what it's like working with his brother, and I don't think I gave Oliver ample time to respond, so I'm gonna switch it. So you can think about your response, Oliver, while I come to Simon first. And I'm gonna ask you, there were so many stories you could have told as a filmmaker. And obviously we understand the backstory a little bit, but tell us from your perspective why you chose food. and really why you chose the nexus of food and health, and really where the last name that everybody's scratching their heads if they don't know kind of tends to come from, which explains also your relationship to food from such an early age. Your entire family has been really involved and engaged in this, so you've really had that privilege of firsthand experience. How did all of that inform you and your journey to making this documentary?
Oh boy. I think I said this last time we spoke, but when I was in the 5th grade, I saw the film An Inconvenient Truth. And that was like one of the first times I really realized that the grown-ups weren't taking care of the planet in the way that I thought they were. And I really, since that day in the 5th grade, I've just the climate anxiety I've felt and the hopelessness I've felt and the hopelessness that a lot of people in my generation feel just so overwhelming that I knew that I had to do something. I couldn't just sit in that anxiety. So I've always loved filmmaking. I was making films with my friends. It's the classic story. I was playing with my dad's VHS camera and, playing with army men and, setting them up and reenacting movies. And I had a camera and I was in a lot of kitchens and it seemed like the very natural step. And I knew that food has such an incredible impact on our environment and it also can be used as a vehicle to fix climate change. It was just a very natural and organic, yeah. So. And
your dad was cool with that?
What?
Your dad was cool with that?
My dad was very cool with it. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Cool dad.
Cool dad.
For so many reasons.
Yeah.
Oliver, what was it
Shut
like
up.
working? What was it like working with your brother?
Oh man, I feel honored and privileged every day to be able to work with my brother. And people ask us this all the time, and the truth is that we have very, very complementary skill sets. If you were to look at it from a restaurant perspective, as we might, I am the front of house and Simon is the back of house. And together, we create this sort of creative energy and force that we share a common vision and a common mission, but we do completely different things. I can barely even turn on a camera, to be honest with you. And Simon would not want to be the one talking and schmoozing all the time if he could avoid it.
I'm so nervous up here right now.
But again, if you asked me to put the settings on a camera, there's no way I could even begin. Simon is a wizard. Likewise, I do all of the producing and the executive producing and that whole side of it. So we have a shared vision, a shared mission, and a shared passion, and a very complementary set of skills. So we don't even really step on each other's toes that much. We barely even argue, and if we do, it's kind of silly. So I feel lucky and blessed every day that I get to work with my brother. It's truly just a joy, and it makes what we do so much more special and impactful.
Okay, family gold standards, we get it. This is amazing. So let's see a little example of what you put together. With that, if I can cue this clip that we've chosen to show you all today.
All right. Take the chairs, keep the chairs.
My dad was diagnosed in 2002. The wonderful medical team who took care of him cautioned, that he may not see my daughter's kindergarten graduation. At that time, I thought, okay, we have to make this better food available. I began researching like crazy, looking at all the pathways, particularly to pancreatic cancer. What gene expressions can you impact with food? How could I now help my dad set himself up to prevent a recurrence? We came up with a list of foods that we knew can definitely impact the outcomes. For cancer, many of the foods were exactly the same as what fuels elite athletes. just beginning to understand, what the rainbow offers. We know orange vegetables give beta-carotene and lutein and zeaxanthin, which help with our eyes. The whites, like the mushrooms, cordyceps, lion's mane, chaga, shiitake, maitake, give us great antibacterial properties and great for our immune system. The reds with tomatoes with lycopenes and preventing prostate cancer. This was a real opportunity for me to take my sports nutrition hat and now put it toward cancer. I became very interested, and I dove into our contracts to understand how can we get better food and how can we provide that food as a healing, delicious meal that tells you we care. St. Joe sits on 365 acres here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and we asked if we could take 25 of those acres and return them back to farmland. So we used draft horses and we plowed the land. We purchased our first hoop house in April of 2010, and then a second one in September. And we hired a farmer. We were the first hospital in the United States to have a farm that paid a farmer living wages, and we are able to connect that food that we grow to our patients.
Really, the future of healthcare looks like having more healthcare providers who wear big straw hats. It's an idea of I get to smile with people, I get to share my passion for local food, we can eat together, which is just the basis of feeling good.
The difference between purchasing from a small-scale farm like the farm at St. Joe's and an industrial-sized farm that uses glyphosates in their soil is the micronutrient composition difference. Having a farm on a hospital campus definitely speaks to who we are, that we are going to walk the talk, that we believe food is medicine, and that it can prevent disease, or if you do have a disease, it can reverse it. We started our farmers market in the hospital lobby, and the first one was sold out in minutes. So there was a demand there. Our employees were very responsive to letting food be medicine and learning about the basic tenets of how to heal and how to get better. My father's story truly changed my belief and passion for what our nutrition can do, what the power of plants are. I'm so passionate about it because I've been at the Olympic Games where athletes have won gold. I've been with athletes who have hoisted the Stanley Cup. I was with my dad crossing 26.2 miles from somebody who never ran before after having pancreatic cancer. And him not only being a survivor, but a thriver. He just feels amazing. And he just had his 82nd birthday.
All right. A little applause is well deserved. You can get a glimpse of what the documentary is like. How many of you have seen the documentary? Let's see a show of hands. Well, okay.
A lot of opportunity for improvement
A lot
here.
of opportunity.
A lot of new viewers I see in this room.
Who is going to watch the documentary? Hey, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Who's going to tell all their friends about it? Hey, there we go.
Don't do another one.
Now we're talking.
Where are all the places
That's
you can
enough.
watch it? Let's just plug that while we're on the topic.
Okay, well, Apple TV, Amazon Prime, and Google Play.
Prime Video.
Prime Video.
Okay, so we saw a segment, and you're in for a treat when you watch the rest of the documentary. I was able to finally watch the whole thing too, and there's so many things I want to give away, but I will restrain myself. But we can talk about this, right? So why did you choose this segment in particular to share with this audience?
Yeah. I think when we started this documentary, we were asking a lot of questions, and we were wondering, with all of these challenges we face, health epidemics, climate change, environmental destruction, inequality, is it some like future technology that we haven't yet discovered that's going to save us? Is it some future pill? Like, what is it? And what we realized in making this film is that we have all the solutions already. We know how to fix agriculture. We know how to provide healthy, nutritious food to members of all communities. We know how to improve healthy food access and healthy food justice through providing food through school programs. And this clip proves that. This school farm is not rocket science. Everyone's heard the phrase, let thy food be thy medicine. And that has been true in cultures and amongst people for hundreds of years, thousands of years, all around the world. And this farm, again, not rocket science, a smallholder, organic, regenerative farm on the grounds of a hospital, providing nutrient-dense food for members of this hospital, helping to heal cancer and other ailments. This is powerful. This is real. This has been there for years. So many of the challenges that we face already have working solutions. And our goal and our vision and our mission in sharing this film was to show all of us that we already have the solutions. Now we need to scale the solutions. We need the food and the food system and the solutions that we talk about to be at the forefront of every conversation in schools, in the policy conversation, at restaurants, throughout society. And so what we're trying to do is to create mass systemic awareness so that everybody in this room and everyone that we're talking to is talking about food and the food system as the most powerful vehicle for change that we have right now on this planet, from an environmental perspective, from a health perspective, and from a societal perspective. And a hospital farm in the Midwest is just one example that we talk about of the solutions that we have already.
It's so smart. Go ahead, Simon.
And what he said, that was...
He concurs. Good.
Like watching the clock go down, I'm like...
We got time, don't worry. We always have time to talk about this. It is so important that we are able to draw people in where they care, whether it's health or environment or social issues, but bringing them into the bigger picture, which is the planet is warming, and that's going to change every aspect of our lives and every decision we make. And it's really brilliant you're doing this. And you must know that a lot of other those that are in the public space and have platforms are similarly talking about food and health. So it's very much a collective effort to reach audiences all over the United States, all over the world. I just came from my panel with Jane Fonda, who was here for South by Southwest, and she said exactly what you just said, right? So you are doing what those are preaching, are saying that needs to be done. You're actually doing it, and it's incredible. And one thing I know is important to both of you is to not reach those who already know, right? But to actually get to those audiences through various platforms and through where they care about these issues. Why is it so important for you to not be preaching to the choir? Why is it important to reach new audiences?
Because everyone who's already, in the choir is already on board, and we're not going to get anything done with the people that are already into this. We need to reach out to people who have no idea about these issues and convince them to make a change, because that's the majority of the people on this planet, and it's going to take every single one of us. So if we're just barking up our tree, then we're not going to get very far.
How would you handle that question? Why is it so important to reach audiences? And I'm saying that it's a little bit to say that I've been working in climate for years now, but I've only seen movement once you bring in the Brothers English, once you bring in the Jane Fondas, once you bring in like the Swift effect. Quite honestly, we know that people people resonate with those that they trust, that they're entertained by, and the restaurants that they go to, and the brands that they recognize. And there's science behind this. This is behavioral science. How much are you going to listen to the person who's communicating to you? And so that's why you have such a critical role to play, and that's why I'm so pleased to see the increased numbers of influencers, celebrities, church leaders, soccer coaches, what have you, but trusted people in various communities to send these messages out there. So, in that regard.
Sweta, will you come everywhere with us? You're amazing. I think, just come everywhere with us, you're amazing. You know, when we first met that Bahamian farmer, you know, I asked Sakani, who had this deep wisdom and joy, like I said, I asked him, Sakani, how do we get people to change? And he said, no one likes when you point a finger at them and tell them that what they've been doing is bad, what they've been eating is bad, and that they're part of the problem. You have to grab their hand and say, come on, take a walk with me. Let's see what we discover. And that's how we approached this film. We actively avoided topics and subjects that people were just going to immediately turn off and shut off by. We realized that filmmaking is a powerful source of soft power. And hard power is when you get people to change by force. You point a gun at them, you have more money, more weapons, more guns, and it's by way of force. Soft power, like the restaurant business, is showing people a better, alternative, happier, healthier, more equitable way of being, and making them feel like they want to change because of a new, better way of thinking and being. That's why films are so powerful in this movement. That's why restaurants and hospitality are so powerful in this movement. They have the capacity to plant the seed, forgive my food puns, I say a lot of them. They have the ability to plant the seed, show people a different way of being, and instill in them the possibility, the idea that they want to be part of that change. Not because they're told to, but because they want to. Because they have a parent or a child who is experiencing diabetes or obesity, or they have a parent or child who has had cancer, or they have seen environmental destruction in their own neighborhood. They have seen these challenges up front and say, there is a new way, there is a better way, and I want to be part of that change. So this is going to take all of us, and that's what this movement's about.
Okay, so I've asked you this before, so I already kind of know the answer in advance. I'm going to take it a little bit further and challenge you to think about what surprised you in the making of this documentary. No, so not what did you learn through the making of this, because of course you're going to put the assumption forward you are going to learn something. The whole point of this was to explore human behavior and what makes people tick and how to really message in a way that resonates so people come on board and they care about the food that they're eating and the bigger picture of climate. But what surprised you? I'm sure there's some surprises here. Maybe some you're not allowed to talk about, but have another glass of wine and maybe we'll come back to it.
I've had enough, thank you. I'll kick it off? Man. I think what surprised me is that, you know, it's not as if the people in our film started with a tremendous amount of resources. They didn't start with huge amounts of money or huge grants or trust funds. These are people who, in their small corner of the world, in their schools, in their hospitals, in their farms, went out and said, the system is broken, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new model that works. I'm going to go ahead with the limited resources that I have and show people that there is a different way to grow food in holistic regenerative systems. We're going to show people that there is a new way to think about holistic health by building hospital farms. There is a new way to think about education, where you bring in healthy local food from regenerative farms in the region, where you teach nutrition and you have scratch kitchen programs. And that to me is deeply, deeply inspiring. Because what it says is, all of us have tremendous power in our daily lives through the companies we work at, through the food that we purchase, through how we vote with our dollar and how we vote with our vote to make a positive change in the world. And no one's coming to save us. No one's coming to save us. However, when all of us stand up as a united voice and decide that we're going to go ahead and make a change in our community, in our company, then that is a powerful truth. And that surprised me. What surprised me is the individual power that we all have to make change and the collective power that we all have to make change.
Faith in humans. Okay. What surprised you? You had a few minutes to think about it.
I shouldn't have let him go first. Like, shoot. He's hitting all the things I was going to say. Yeah, I mean, it's the ability these amazing people, like these people in our film, and when you watch it, which you will, these people are doing these amazing things, camera on or camera off, and they've been doing it for 30 plus years before we even showed up. So just like the breadth of amazing people who are really who really care and are actually getting up out of bed and trying to make the world a little bit better. It's just so inspiring, and it's just like, like Oliver said, no one's gonna save us except ourselves. So I was just so surprised by how amazing everyone was.
Okay, so it's incredible that people have humanity, that they're willing to put in the work, that they're willing to learn, they're willing to do their part to overcome some of the big challenges we have, big global challenges we have around food security and health and all of the different places that a warming planet creates nexus. What do you hope the audience will take away from all of this?
The power of one. Mark Shepard, the main farmer in our film, we asked every person in this film, all right, I like it. We asked every person in this film, how do you make change? And Mark Shepard, the main farmer in our says, quote, to emphasize my point, thank you. He says, quote, believe in the power of one. Believe in the power of one. And a quick story, when I was working in the restaurant business, we had this rule. And an older manager told me about it when I was a little bit younger, and he said, if someone comes in and makes a comment, why'd you take the salmon off the menu? Why do you still have plastic straws? Whatever it was. We assumed that maybe 15 to 20 people were thinking it. But maybe someone didn't want to say it because they didn't want to cause a fuss. If 2 people made that comment, we would make a note in a little book. If 3 people made that same comment, we would make that change. And we, as a small business, we grew up in a family restaurant business, if we as a business depended on our consumers for our survival, grocery stores depend on their consumers, politicians respond to and eventually listen to their constituents, and even big corporations eventually listen to consumers if there are enough people saying, we want to do things differently. So in every way that we can, when we decide to go to the farmer's market, when we decide to support local, when we decide to support organic and regenerative agriculture, when we decide to compost, when we decide to grow food and flowers in our front yards, we are saying that we believe in the power of one. And when we believe in the power of one and we share that power with our network and our friends and our family, we are a collective force for good in the world. And in healthy farming systems, the healthiest farming systems have plants and trees and animals and biodiversity and are focusing on the entire health of the ecosystem through time. And what I love about Food Tank, and I've told this to Danny and Bernie and Kenzie and the whole team and Sweta, is that the people in this room represent an ecosystem. The people in this room, farmers, environmentalists, filmmakers, entrepreneurs, people who love food, we are a collective ecosystem. And we grow together when our voice is united. So when we stand up and in the small way that we can in our corner of the world decide to support a food system that is healthier and more regenerative, we can create a massive, massive momentum of change. Massive. So believe in the power of one. Believe in the power of one.
Okay, I'm gonna ask Simon this first, and then I'm gonna go to you, Oliver.
I get so nervous when you say my name.
You have a friend in me, or a mom, whatever. Anyway.
Just don't ask me to edit anything or film anything ever.
What do you got? What do we got?
So, I'm a behavioral scientist. We've been down this road before, and I can't help but ask this line of questioning, because it's about communicating, obviously. I'm a big fan of communication and using various vehicles for communicating, whether it's broadcast, whether it's audio, whether it's visual, all of the above, right? We need to reach people through various means. Now, how do you measure impact, though? I get asked this all the time, so I need to know your answers so I can steal them. We need to know how you are sure that you're succeeding. And maybe you're not, and that's okay, to just be authentic about what challenges you're facing in that, and then maybe we can collectively figure out how to address that. But how do you measure impact? Let's start with that.
Okay, cool. How I measure impact, I mean, okay, the grocery store I go to back in Venice, it is Venice, California, so it's a small microcosm of whatever. But now I'm starting to see labels on the food that says regeneratively grown, which 5 years ago wasn't even mentioned at all. So I think you're starting to see this conversation and this word regenerative get into, you know, consumer packaged goods. These companies that, you know, capitalism, for better or worse, they're responding, like Oliver said, to consumers. And I think we're starting to see that change, and I think that is a great way to measure change as a behavioral scientist. And now to jump back, filmmaking, I think is one of the most powerful ways to inspire change. Like I said earlier, I saw the film An Inconvenient Truth when I was in the 5th grade, and it changed my life. Now I'm a filmmaker that makes films about the environment. And now people here are seeing films about the environment, and they're asking questions, and then they're gonna demand from, you know, companies, where's the regenerative logo? Where is this food growing? So film has the power to change people, and people have the power to change the world that we're living in.
Nice. You're going first from now on.
What? Yeah, I know. Watch him. He's kicking himself right now.
Over to you.
Measuring impact is sort of the biggest thing here, and I think the impact that we need to see and the scale that we need to see it at, we need both bottom-up and top-down change. From the top down, we need to ultimately impact the federal farm bill to support organic, regenerative farming, to support healthy school programs and healthy lunches that actually are nutrient dense and nourish the children of America and around the world. We're not quite there yet, but through systemic awareness, through our film, through our friends at Common Ground, and other amazing films that are out there right now in the world, we can start to create, and we are starting to create, a mass systemic awareness so that every time one of us goes to vote for a local politician, statewide politician, or national politician, the food system better be part of their conversation. And if it's not, raise your hand and say, excuse me, ma'am, sir, whoever, why aren't we talking about this? And on the local level, we measure it district by district, school by school. A couple years ago, we started to build a regenerative school farm at a public middle school in Santa Monica. And we hired a farmer. And it's the biggest school farm in the district. And every single kid who goes to that school, and we built the school because the principal saw the film and understood the premise and the power of these ideas. Every single kid who goes to that school now spends time outside on the farm learning about biodiversity and carbon sequestration and where food comes from. The scraps from the cafeteria from that school are now brought to the outside compost, returned to soil, and used to grow more food. And we have parents on a daily basis come to us and say, thank you so much. My child never used to eat kale. My child couldn't get them to eat green beans at Thanksgiving. Now I can't get them to stop. And by the way, here's the compost. So that's how we measure impact. And we can't be satisfied with that yet. The true test of where we need to go is going to be our ability to alter the farm bill at the national level. But also, we believe deeply that Feeding Tomorrow is about making sure that every school, in every community, in every part of the country, in every part of the world has a school farm, has a school garden, and the school farm and garden is integrated into the core curriculum. So kids are learning about where food comes from, how it grows, and that's how we begin to solve the interconnected challenge of health, environmental, and social inequality throughout the country. That's what it's about.
Amazing. Let's give a huge round of applause to the Brothers English.
I like that. No, Brothers English is good. You're good, Sweta.
I'm just going to pick up on one call to action that Oliver said. If you care about food and the climate, you know what you need to do come November and all the way down the ballot. We need to make sure climate and food stays top of mind for our policymakers and decision makers that are going to determine our collective future. So with that, thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sweta.